did you start your own company from scratch, or was it something that it was a family business and then you took over?
Yeah, fantastic question. So no, 100% all from scratch.
Welcome back to another episode of Thirstcast. My name is Dennis Jadros, and today we have a special guest, a UK tax advisor from the UK, all the way to international tax experts. We're going to uncover all the things you need to know today. So please welcome JoshuaTharby. Josh, pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me today.
No problem at all. I looked out that you are in Dubai right now. Is that
Yeah, that's
correct?
right. Yeah, we're live in from Dubai right now.
That's nice. Whereabouts in Dubai?
So at the minute I'm in Business Bay. Yes, it's right near downtown Burj Khalifa.
Okay,
Yeah, so we've got an office and I live near there as well.
brilliant, brilliant. So what made you move over to Dubai? Because you were originally from
Yeah,
Peterborough.
Peterborough in the UK. So yeah, I moved to
Mm-hmm.
Dubai about 2 years ago, and the main reason for it was taxes. So we had a good business in the UK, but in the UK, of course, you pay a lot of
Mm-hmm.
tax: corporation tax, income tax, everything else. And really, it was just a kind of new challenge as well, a new opportunity moving to Dubai. So that 2 years ago, better quality lifestyles, year-round sunshine. There's so many reasons to move to Dubai. There's just a couple of them.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, that's brilliant. To be honest with you, I was thinking about moving to Dubai myself, but I don't think I'm in the right financial situation to be able to make that next step. And one question that I really had for you, since I already know that you were in Dubai right now, what is the number one thing that someone needs to know before moving to Dubai if they're thinking of moving to Dubai?
Yeah, well, it literally is your point that Dubai is very
Right.
expensive. But to have a good life here, and especially to replicate the quality of life that you're probably used to in the UK, it is very expensive. So a lot of people, if you move to Dubai, it's a apartment life. You probably could be paying 20, 30, 40,000 pound a year just for a one bedroom
Hmm.
apartment in many areas of Dubai. If you want a decent villa or a large villa somewhere in a good area that's not 45 minutes away from all the main attractions in Dubai that you want to go to, that is going to cost a lot of money. £100,000 a year rent isn't uncommon.
Really?
And then you add the
Okay.
additional living expenses, everything else, more expensive cars, more expensive food and drink. Actually, Dubai can get very
Absolutely.
expensive. So it's just about that's definitely the first thing. That's the main thing I'd say is take into account just how expensive Dubai is to maintain the quality of life that you're accustomed to in the UK. You can come to Dubai, you can live cheap, but ultimately you will be having a lesser quality of life. You'll be living in a small apartment, which from a lot of people moving from a large 3, 4, 5 bed house, that's not what you want to be doing.
Hmm. Do you think people who are moving to Dubai purely because of the lifestyle
Yeah,
or purely because
I
of
think
the type of
the
environment?
yeah the people that we work with and the clients that we've helped move over here, I'll probably say that 99% of the time tax is definitely the main motivator. It's the case that if you've got a UK business and
Okay.
you're currently paying £200,000 a year in tax, well, actually in Dubai you're probably saving most
Hmm.
of that, and then with that you have the increased lifestyle as well. But tax is definitely the main motivator, I find.
Okay. And now that you mentioned about the taxes, I really wanted to cover a little bit about that specifically, since also you're kind of expert in that yourself. So, if someone who's about, because there's so many young entrepreneurs, solopreneurs right now, and moving forward, we're looking to see about 48% increase for someone who's just thinking of starting a business right
Yeah.
now. So, when someone's really starting out, what are the key factors that they need to be aware of when it comes to taxes? Because this is something that uh, we overlook, and we're not really, thinking through, and we don't really focusing on earlier on the beginning until we find ourselves in that situation where it's like, oh man, what do I need to do right now? I have so many expenses. Like, what is your advice?
Yeah, I'd say was one of the best bit of advice is obviously you need to know this stuff, but get a good accountant from day one, because the way most accountants
Okay.
work, you pay the same amount of money whether you join them at the end of the year once you've tried muddling the waters,
Hmm.
mixing up expenses and income, figuring stuff out over the course of a year, as you do if you join them on day one and say, you know what, Josh, this is my business. You know it. You're the accountant. You help me do this. So for 90% of the way, you actually do it for them, the bookkeeping and the accounts and the VAT returns. So definitely get an accountant and someone on board as soon as you can, because most of the time the cost is the
Hmm.
same. But then in terms of what you actually need to be aware of, well, most people, limited companies are the way to go, just because you've got the limited liability. Now with the increases in corporation tax, the actual amount of profit after tax, cash after tax that you will have, it's quite similar between being a sole trader and a limited company. But for anybody doing business, you want a
Okay.
limited company. It makes you look more professional. You have a limited liability. And with a limited company, it's basically just about making sure that you have a good separate bank account. That's the first thing that we say to people, rather than meddling with expenses, using your personal account for some income, some expenses. You need to have a separate bank
Right.
account. All of your income goes into it, all of your expenses go out of it. That way, nothing can get missed. Make sure you're issuing invoices, you're keeping the invoices for all of the expenses that you're incurring, keeping receipts and keeping invoices. That's what we'd say at the very minimum, just to make you've got good financial information. But then it's about budgeting for tax as well, because it's quite easy as a business owner to actually just, you see the money in the bank account. Okay, we've got £20,000. That's all mine. Let me go invest £20,000 in this new training course, some new machinery. Well, actually, if you're VAT registered, that £20,000 could easily be due to the VAT man, or even just for a non-VAT registered
Hmm.
business. That money isn't all yours. You've got corporation tax to pay, which is due 9 months after your year end. So you need to make sure that you don't get caught short with the cash flow side of things, and you do have some money set aside for paying the taxes.
Okay, that's brilliant. And how can someone, if I had a limited company, how can I pay myself through that?
So there are a number of different ways to pay yourself. I guess the first one will be your director's own account. So what will happen is when you set up a company, quite often you'll put money into the company for initial
Hmm.
expenses. And what we do with a lot of our clients is we actually sell their assets. So at the minute, if you can start a business, chances are you've got a telephone, cameras, laptops that you own personally. You might have brought them a few years ago. Well, actually, now you're using them for the
Hmm.
business. So what we'll do is we'll transfer them over at their current value, and all of this stuff will form part of your director's own account. And what you can do with this amount is you can either charge interest on it or actually take it out completely tax free. So if we add all this up, all the money that you've put in, say you put £10,000 worth of stuff in there, your company owes you that. Now, a couple of months later, you've sent some invoices, you've got cash in the bank, you can take that full £10,000 out tax free. So that's the first and the easiest way to get money out as a new business. Anything over and above that, you probably want to be paying yourself a salary. So everyone in the UK, you get your £12,570 tax-free personal allowance. Pretty much most people, it makes absolute sense to pay at least that amount out as a salary. Then anything else above that,
Okay,
you probably want to take as dividends if you've got the profit in the company to do so.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I think a lot of people will actually benefit from this conversation because this is the number one thing I'll start realizing myself because I'm a new sort of entrepreneur myself. I've been doing this for around a year now, and I start to realize that taxing and legal activities is the most important thing other than operations of your business because you really need to be able to uh, have some sort of proof of what you do and how much income you have and all that. So there's no like any shady activities, or you have, if you find yourself in trouble with the government. I think a prime example from that was Andrew Tate. You must be familiar with
Yeah, absolutely.
because he has so many issues with the government, but also the things that he said on the internet, because also
Yeah,
there's so
that's
many
the
things you
biggest.
need to be aware of
That's
and
the
be
biggest
careful.
thing that, yeah, that's not. It's almost, it was what caused him to get so big in some respect, but then it's also caused his downfall. He just said a lot of stuff, and yeah, too many people got offended, and ultimately that's kind of what led to his not downfall, but his mass censorship, which has kind of almost had him cancelled in those
Okay.
different respects, unfortunately.
Yeah, I did see a clip from Andrew Tate where he was on a podcast or somewhere. And he did say that it's nearly impossible to touch the rich because no one owns anything.
Yeah,
So what's your perspective on that?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a fantastic way of, especially for a lot of people in the early days, they might focus on this, but really to protect your wealth, to have trusts involved. You need to, for one, not be UK tax resident, because as soon as you have offshore trusts that own your assets, the tax ramifications in the
Hmm.
UK are very heavy if you can benefit from that trust. So this type of stuff doesn't typically work if you're a UK tax resident. The second is you need to be really wealthy to be able to afford to put this structure into place. Quite often, especially with a lot of people kind of promoting this stuff on the internet, where people that come to us and say, "I'm just starting out in
Hmm.
business. I've not even made any money yet, but I want to set up a trust overseas to protect it." And it's like, no, don't bother doing this stuff, because for one, you can't afford it right now. Your main thing at the minute should be focusing on building something worth protecting, building that wealth to start with, and then the rest can happen later on. But yeah, absolutely. If you're wealthy, and I'll put a number on that, I'll say if you've got net assets worth, you've got to be worth at least 2 or 3 million, really, to justify the cost of
Okay.
this net assets as well. But if you are in that position, then yeah, absolutely, your assets, your businesses, boats, jets should be owned by offshore companies and offshore trusts, so that they are protected, so that they are tax efficient, and that if somebody sues you personally, your assets are completely out of harm's way and protected.
Is that similar to LLC, what the Americans have?
In some respects, yeah, an LLC is, well, it's kind of equivalent to a UK limited company in that it's limited liability
Right.
corporation. So it's just a way of having an entity which exists legally independent from you. So
Okay.
that LLC could own assets. It could be a business, and then that LLC could
Okay.
either be owned
Right.
by another company or it could be owned by a trust. So it's just another layer, another legal entity. So it's actually, well, if that LLC has a private jet in it, well, actually, you don't personally own that private jet. The LLC does. So if somebody were to sue you personally, well, that private jet doesn't belong to you, so they can't take it. It's owned by that LLC. So that
Right.
LLC,
So you're
yeah,
protected.
that's right. And
Yeah.
then that LLC, if you owned that company, if you own the company, well, actually, then they could take the shares in the company. So what you would do there would be have an overseas trust which owns the company. That trust exists and says, well, actually, you know what, you can benefit from the use of the assets, but you don't actually own them. So nobody can take those assets from you because you don't physically own them.
Absolutely. What is the one thing that you've seen amongst people who have a lot of money, especially in Dubai? You must be surrounded with lots of different people, influencers, and all that, who has have quite a lot of things. What? How do they structure their own business? Are they following the same sort of method that you just described, or are they doing something else?
Yeah, quite often that method we described is what they're doing on various degrees. So quite a lot of wealthy people at least have some kind of offshore trust, whether it's for asset protection or actually just to pass their assets on to the next generation in the most tax efficient way. But yeah, absolutely. Even the wealthy that we speak to in Dubai, they've all got international companies which own UK real estate, own property elsewhere, where the yachts are owned through. So yeah, absolutely. This type of company structures with the trusts involved as well. Even family foundations as well. That can be another structure. They're
Hmm.
absolutely. It's when it comes to tax planning and wealth protection, it's basically the gold standard. So many of the wealthy do follow that approach.
Absolutely. I want to change a little bit the subject towards directly to you, and how did you start through this whole journey of becoming a tax advisor and then moving towards Dubai and become an international expert? What led you to make the first move really, and how did you make your start?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as with accounting, you can't teach yourself this stuff, to some degree. So, we really started.
Hmm.
When was it? Probably about 8 years ago. Yeah, well, I suppose it started even earlier than that, with university, getting the formal qualifications, and then actually getting the experience in. So, working for Safri is a very large firm. They do a lot of international tax planning, work with a lot of high value clients, getting some good experience there, and moving on to a different firm as well. Basically, just to build myself up, get the real experience, get exposure to actually see how this stuff works. Did that for a number of years. Then 5 years ago, set up my own practice. So set up JSM 5 years ago in the UK,
Okay.
primarily initially working with high net worth individuals and property investors, and then off the
Is that the same?
yeah yeah
Is that the same company that you have
Yeah,
today?
so still got that company today
Okay.
in the UK. Yeah, fantastic company. Still got a team in the UK that manage that. And then actually 2 years ago, moving out to Dubai, really because we've been working with high net worth individuals for a number of years. The crossover was already there. So as soon as we moved out to Dubai, the service just kind of led on. Because prior to that, we were
Right.
just referring people onto our partners out in Dubai. When then I actually made the move, we built up the team out here. So actually, we just started bringing that in house and offering the whole package when it comes to the UK and UAE tax planning.
Okay, that's good. What was the biggest challenge that you faced so far, whether that was your in your personal life or in your business career?
Yeah, I guess the biggest challenge, I suppose, with this stuff, it's very, very technical. So you've got to make sure that you can kind of stay
Right.
committed to, being the best, staying updated, lectures, networking, reading all the case law and everything else. Basically, because it's such a technical area, there's no margin for error. So the biggest challenge is making sure that you're doing enough to stay updated to give your clients the best possible service.
I see. Yeah, it sounds like a very technical kind of role, and you want to be knowledgeable all around, because if someone comes to you with their money, the last thing that you want to be is find yourself in the situation of I don't know what to do in this kind of stuff, which is amazing. Not gonna lie. Do you think the role that you have right now satisfies you to the limit that you wanna be? Is this your is this the ceiling at the moment to where you are? What is your motivation like? What's
Yes,
next?
absolutely. In terms of what we're doing, yeah, we're continuously growing. So over the 5 years, there's never been a year where we haven't grown by double digits. So there's absolutely no ceiling. It's just a case of drilling down deeper and deeper and deeper and keep mining out those diamonds. So that's what we're doing. Is we're
Okay.
going to keep growing each and every year. So absolutely, that's the plan. Is just to keep growing, see how big we can take JSM, see what investments we can do
Hmm.
alongside, and ultimately, as with most things, most businesses, most people, the objective is to build that generational wealth.
Absolutely. I think this is a term that a lot of people are actually using. But me personally, I haven't really had the opportunity to meet any of these people. So if you had to put a number into a perspective, as in terms of your goals in the next, I don't know, 5 years, where would that number be?
Yeah, I'll 5 years would probably it's probably too short. I'll say 10 years. 10 years we're looking for 10 million.
ten
Yeah,
years
10 years,
Yeah.
10 million. That's so by the
Okay.
time I'm 40, I personally I'm looking to have at least a 10 million net worth.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Because you don't really get the opportunity to actually meet people who have this kind of vision on everyday basis. Well, unless you live in
Yeah,
Dubai, I
in
guess.
Dubai,
Uh,
10 million is a poor person in Dubai.
what's the average that you've seen on net worth
Yeah,
individuals?
the average probably
Would
is,
you
yeah,
say?
especially in the UK, probably the average we work with is probably 5 or 6 million. But when we're networking and speaking
Okay.
to people out in Dubai, yeah, you're probably looking upwards of 25 million net worth.
An app, okay. I saw this clip actually from Joe Rogan that said the Saudi Arabian they don't really actually state their actual net worth
Yeah.
because they own everything. Is that true
To be honest, I don't know that.
to
Yeah,
an
I can
extent?
I can see how
Okay.
that could be true. It's I know they mentioned that they've got the world's rich list. Elon Musk and everyone on there, but then you've actually got the secret wealth, the Rothschilds, Saudi Arabia, all the royal families, the Sultan of Brunei, and yeah, absolutely, they're not on the Sunday Times rich list. They're not on the Forbes, but those guys do own and control a
Okay.
lot of stuff. They've got significant business interests. So yeah, absolutely, I can definitely
Hmm.
see there being some merit behind the rulers of Saudi Arabia being the richest people in the world, not just the CEOs and the founders of these Fortune 500 companies.
Absolutely. Do you think like money is the number one motivator? Because if you come from money, I don't think that money is what you really passionate about it. Because if you have
Yeah,
it, if you're not really seeking
it's
for
a case
it,
of you always want what you've not got, and if you grow up
right?
with if you're fat, you want to have a six pack. It's always a case of whatever
Okay.
you don't have is typically what you want until you get it, and then you realise most of the time it's not as good as what you want, how you thought it would be to start with. But yeah, absolutely. I think with a lot of people, the self-made people, money is probably always the motivator. It's a case of A lot of people like what they do. They like the feeling that making money gets. In terms of what it
Okay,
does, when you make money, it's a dopamine rush to some extent, almost like winning at a casino. Having a cigarette, it feels good. And for a lot of people, that's why they
absolutely.
continue doing it, and then money almost becomes a scorecard in the game of business as just to how well you're doing compared to everybody else around you.
I think money is, if it's from someone who hasn't come from it, is the number one thing that everybody wants to achieve, purely because the way at least I see it is the option that gives you the freedom that gives you to do a lot of things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Do you think that is? Do you think that's the one reason that, or any other reasons that people are actually saying how money actually
Yeah,
work?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Money is for the freedom. That's definitely one of the main motivators. Um, yeah, if you come
Hmm.
from money and you don't need it, yeah, you're not inclined to, make. A lot of people aren't inclined to make more money. That's why typically when it comes to generational wealth, you've got the founder generation actually make the money, and then within 2 or 3 generations, because they lose the knowledge and the hunger to make more money and grow more money, they just spend it because they're not hungry for the money. Typically, that's how long generational wealth lasts, maximum 2 or 3 generations, because when you have money, you actually don't have the hunger for
Hmm.
money, so you lose it, and as a result, the wealth diminishes. But a lot of people that aren't born with money, they do want money, so that's why they're self-made. Are the majority of people. If you look on the Sunday Times richest or the Forbes 100, a lot of I think it's maybe
Yeah.
60% are actually self-made first generational millionaires, as it stands.
Did you start your own company from scratch, or was it something that it was a family business and then you took over?
Yeah, yeah, fantastic question. So no, 100% all from scratch. In terms of grew up, yeah, I grew up in poverty, free school meals, single mother household, 3 sisters. So yeah, in terms of growing up, we weren't rich, weren't wealthy in any way, shape, or form. It wouldn't surprise me if my mum was probably living on a couple of £100 a week at the time. So yeah, absolutely grew up with no money at all.
And what was your hunger? What was your hunger then?
Hunger.
And what was the number one thing that you had? I'll do this no matter
Yeah,
what.
I was always interested in business. It's just a case of I wanted money. I saw what
Right.
money did. I knew how not having money felt and how it impacts your life. You want to do something, but you can't because you don't have the money. So I always experienced that as a kid. So growing up,
Hmm.
it's a case of no, I will have money. Finding out how to get it, just so that I don't have to basically not. I don't have to go about. I can do anything I want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is very interesting because school doesn't teach you exactly that. That's the number one thing that you really want to know to succeed as a business owner, how you actually doing the things you know uh, that you're doing right now on daily basis. Even if you study business, most cases it's not actually to build your own business, but it's actually to go and work for someone who has a
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, that's always the case. That's how the whole system is structured, and it really has to be
Hmm.
that way. If school taught you to start your own business, do
True.
this and do that, well, actually, it gets to the stage where everyone's got their own business. You can't get any staff. That you kind of there's so many in terms of society. There's so many cogs to the machine that you have to have enough people in all different cogs. If they school taught everyone to start a business, well, then nobody would be working at McDonald's, nobody would be in the warehouses, nobody would be a lorry driver, and all these key things that you actually need for the whole of society to
Right.
function.
Absolutely. And going back to when you started yourself, how did you scale at the beginning? Because when you first open your own business, and especially if you don't have the capital to hire people, operations, and all the things that you really want to run the business yourself, how do you manage as a one person to do pretty much everything?
Yeah, so early stages, of course, it's a juggling act. You're spinning many different plates, but it's just a case of finding a way
Hmm.
to really hire as soon as possible. So to either get rid of the jobs that you really don't enjoy, or that you're bad at. And the good thing about most businesses is you can just basically charge customers up front. So the way we do it is, well, most accountancy businesses, well, typically they used to do the work, then get paid by the client a month afterwards. Of course, you can't scale that business because you're doing the work and then you're going to get paid 30 days afterwards. It's a bad way of doing the structuring the business. What we do is as soon as you join us, you pay up front for the accounts that you're going to do, basically. So with a
Right.
positive cash flow before we have to do the work. And because that's the way we structured it, we could instantly take on more clients, and we might not actually have to really do any work for a year, but that we get that cash over the year, so
Okay.
we can hire a lot faster. And the same in most businesses. If you can start issuing payment up front before you start working with somebody, say, you know what, pay me in advance for this job. Well, actually, you've got the cash in your bank, which you can then go use to hire a member of staff who will then go and fulfill that
Hmm.
order or do that job for you that you've already been paid for. So it's with scaling, it's just about, from a practical finance point of view, it's about cash flow. Of course, you've got the HR issues, the operational issues, all that stuff that comes with it. But from a cash point of view, if you can get a positive cash flow where as soon as you acquire a customer, your business is cash flow positive, that will enable you to scale it because you can use that cash flow to hire people who are actually going to do that work for you.
So it's so you buy really leverage at the beginning with someone else's money without investing your own money to do that,
Yeah, I guess to
basically.
some extent you're going to get, as long as you can acquire the customer for a cheap or low cost, you're going to use that customer's money to actually go and hire somebody to do the job for them. Of course, it's a lot more technical than that. They're going to be working for you and everything else, but in the long and short of it, that's what you'll do, and that's
Hmm.
the best way of scaling.
Do you think people is easier to get people to join to what you actually sell, or is it more difficult to retain those kind of people to the type of the business that you run?
Yeah, I'd say it depends what you're selling, but yeah, in terms of retaining staff, yeah, so finding staff is difficult. Retaining staff is difficult as
Hmm.
well. So that's the hardest, probably. That's realistically the hardest bit I found about scaling a business is actually getting good staff in to help scale the business. Getting customers, that's pretty easy. That can almost become a bit mechanical in that, you know, if you can get 100 sales calls booked, 50% of them are going to show up, 50% of them are going to become customers. So, you know, for every 100 people you get booked in, you've got 25 customers coming through. And then you can just scale that with ads, content, outreach, whatever it is. That's the easy
Okay.
side of it. But then actually
Hmm.
getting a good process for technical staff, that is almost, it's very difficult to do because there's so far few and in between. Whereas if you're scaling and you want your sales staff or staff where you can kind of do some kind of in-house training, that's a lot easier because they don't have to have 5 years experience in accounting and tax to do the job. You could just get them off the street, put them through your training process, and then within 2 weeks they can start working for
Hmm.
you and making you money.
Do you think it's easier to have in-house people or remote people because they tend
Yeah,
to be
always.
less
I
expensive?
think always in house in terms of what's best. We've tried, you know, we
Hmm.
had workers in Philippines, India, everywhere, and I know everyone's working from home at the minute. But in terms of as a business owner, having everyone in the office talking to each other, that is the best way to get the most productivity. Even a lot of the CEOs of these large companies agree. Of course, there's a few studies that say working from home is more effective, but absolutely not. When it comes to running and scaling a business, the best way is boots on the ground, everyone in an office working together.
Absolutely. I think that is very true. I've tried hiring some professionals, especially with video editing, and to the whole sort of media type of world. Editing, I believe, is the number one thing everybody should be focusing on right now if they don't know where to start,
Yeah,
what business to make, because the demand is so high right now because everybody is doing this. So the best advice I give to the people, to the young men that they come to me and say, "What can I do right now? I'm at the age where I have a lot of time. How can I leverage this?" That is the number one thing that I say to them
yeah.
because they can learn pretty much everything for free nowadays from YouTube, and then they can leverage that and
Yeah,
you know
absolutely. There's so many
just.
business owners out there that, for a lot of people, they don't
Mm,
necessarily know the specifics, don't know what subtitles to add to capture attention, don't know how to like. It's a very quick and easy skill to learn. Video editing and social media. You know, you can know nothing about it within a week. You could be, you know, not an expert, but pretty well versed to actually get some
pretty good,
results,
yeah.
get some good content out there. Looks good, gets customers engaged, builds momentum. And there's so many business owners that they just don't, they can't invest the time. They're not sure, they're a bit older, maybe 50, 40, 50, 60 years old, and they look at Instagram and they don't know what they're doing. And all of those people, they've got businesses, they probably know that they need to be on social media marketing their business, and they're just happy to pay somebody one or two, £3,000 or whatever it is to just handle it all, edit the videos, post the videos. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. It's a fantastic skill to learn and a great business.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to wrap up quickly, I really wanted to ask you this particular question. I think that you are the right person to ask. If you had to move to any country in the world, where would that be and why?
Um, I'll probably give almost two answers. So I suppose coming from
Okay.
the UK honestly is a fantastic place to do business. Um, you've got great infrastructure, easy banking, so many different businesses out there. It is a very good economy to be doing businesses. There's lots of talented people where
Hmm.
it's easy to hire people in the UK, which is obviously very just they'll kind of lead on to the next bit is either the UK just because it's a great place to do business, we still do business there, or Dubai. Dubai is a fantastic place, growing city, favourable tax regimes, but it's a little bit harder to hire staff, a lot more cash flow needed, just because with Dubai, everyone here, obviously you've got your Emirati population, but everyone else is an immigrant. You need to have a work visa. So actually getting good staff here is a lot more expensive. You need to basically sponsor them as employees, help them get their own visa just to work with you. And if you go through all of that process in 3 months' time, you find out they're useless. You spent a lot of money. It's a
Right.
very laborious process to scale with staff on the ground in Dubai. Whereas in the UK, you can actually put a job advert out on Indeed, hire somebody, and they can be working with you as long as they've got a passport, right to work in the UK. That's it. It's very easy. So it depends what type of business you're going for. If it's just you on your laptop making money, I'd say go to Dubai. If you're from the UK
Hmm.
and you think actually we need an office, we need specialist people in the office, boots on the ground, the UK is probably the better option.
How do you prefer mixing the both? Hiring someone from the UK, then move them to Dubai? Is
Yeah,
that
we've looked at that, but it, that's an option. Yeah, that's where a lot of people have success because you've got the UK knowledge. People love to buy. Um, but yeah, absolutely,
Mhm.
that's an option. You still got the same hurdles of the visa costs, but yeah, it's definitely an option.
Brilliant? Well, it was a pleasure. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Where can they find you,
Yeah,
Josh?
absolutely. So, best place to reach out to me is our UK accountancy business website, so jsmpartners.co.uk. You can book a discovery call. If you want to
Okay,
reach me personally, Joshua at jsmpartners.co.uk. And my name is Joshua Tharby. That's on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X, everywhere. You can find me at that handle.
brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope to see you again soon.
Perfect. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.